Morning, everybody. It's Chris here. Welcome back to the World Cup Daily Spreadsheet Show. This is the show where we try to use Excel to get some insight on the day's World Cup fixtures. And we're here with Ian. How are you doing, Ian?
Morning, fine. Thank you, Chrissy. Lovely. Morning. Lovely to see you. Morning, everybody. Bit of pink today. Nice bit of bright pink. Thought I'd, just lighten the place up. Yeah, I'm good. All good. You?
Yeah, decent. I can see we've got 37 people tuned in already, so it's great to be with you this morning, guys. And let's go ahead and say hello to everybody. So Scott first in, very solid from you, Scott. First in yesterday too, I think, as well. Big welcome to you. Dave's with us. Said Dave missed yesterday's session, but yeah, remember these are all available on YouTube. We'll probably leave them there forever. So it could be a nice little fun. Maybe welcome to you. Let's salute General Lee in as well. Back to work tomorrow, so might miss live stream as you said, Lee. The replay.
Just bunk off, Lee.
Roger and Arnie is known from. Yeah, he's a bad influence this year. And then Arnie, another of our Australian viewers in. How about that? And so great to have Arnie. Great to have you with us. Paul also from down under as well. Fantastic. And Jayster, lovely comment here. Jayster, really appreciate it. Thank you very much for the first 7 days. Very educational and has made me think about my own data sets and approach. Great job, guys. Really appreciate it. Jayster. Barry's with us. Barry says, morning, I look forward to these great group of blokes together. Thank you, Barry. And Barry's getting stuck into you about your shirts. Ian.
It's been a talking point. It has been a talking point for a number of years. That I do Zooms and things with people on football betting, and I'm very, very rarely, and I mean probably only 3 to 4 days a year that I'm not wearing a Ralph Lauren polo shirt. I have got a couple of hundred of them. I go to Vegas. Sam goes off to the outlet mall, comes back with 15, 20. Ralph Lauren's that she thinks I like, and that's it. The get up, my work uniform is a Ralph Lauren and a pair of jeans. That's it.
Simplifies things, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they have challenged me to wear a different colour every day. I think some think I can't make it. I'm absolutely going to. I could wear a different colour for about the next 6 months.
Good stuff. Mark tuning in as well. How you doing, Mark? So Mark, with the Excel chops, I mean the V stack, H stack, love stuff yesterday. Absolutely love that. Callum tuning in. How you doing, David? How's it going? Lee's got the flu. Never a good thing, Lee. Hope you're getting better. And everybody else tuning in further down. Lee Stanyland is in. Ian Moran is in. Big welcome to you two guys. So, as always, a little bit about what we're trying to do. So, if you're tuning in for the first time, I can see that we have new viewers joining us every day, which is fantastic stuff. You know, over the course of the World Cup, every day there's games. We're going to do one of these sessions, and we're trying to develop an analytical framework in Excel, which sounds quite a lofty ambition. I don't know how we're doing on this, but yeah, we're approaching a kind of dashboard for analyzing these games, and every day we share the data file that we're building up over time. And the link's in the video description. That's absolutely free, but you do need to put your email in because you'll get the link emailed to you. When you get that email, you'll get some promo info about our Excel VBA football traders community. So this is a unique Excel VBA learning community for people like you, people working with football data, and they're tired of going on YouTube and going on the internet and looking for resources about analyzing Excel data. Everything you need, we have in this community. We've got a ton of success stories from people who have totally changed their setups through this community. And there's a promo code, which is World Cup, and that locks in a discounted rate for you. And final announcement is, we've got a couple of disclaimers in the description below. We just point these out every day. So we're not endorsing the location of this tournament, and we're not encouraging you to bet either. And you can read those full disclaimers in the description below. So with that said, I'll hand over to Ian. So maybe a quick review of yesterday's fixtures, Ian.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at what happened yesterday. Tunisia, Australia was a game I put up as over 1.5 goals. I thought we might see goals in it. I did personally fancy Australia to nick it, and they did. And for those of you struggle to understand how the betting side works, that was a typical game where the bet didn't win, but we didn't lose any money. So I backed over 1.5 goals on 20 minutes. It was 1.84. So I basically am buying, if you look at it in market terms, I'm buying over 1.5 goals at 1.84. 23rd minute, Australia scored. That market then resets and it went down to 1.2 now for over 1.5 goals, because obviously we've had a goal in the game, so the market changes. And I was able to sell my position then at 1.2. So I bought at 1.84. I've sold at 1.2. I've got that buffer in between now with no risk. I've sold my initial risk. And we needed the second goal for me to profit. So whilst the bet didn't win, I didn't lose any money. I could just sit on that, and we didn't get the second goal. I did think there would be goals, but there wasn't, and Australia went on 1-0. Lewandowski finally got his goal in a World Cup as Poland beat Saudi Arabia. So, that sets up a clash now, Poland versus Argentina, because Argentina won as I thought they would. It's going to be an interesting group that now to see who goes through. I personally think that Argentina will beat Poland as well, but obviously Saudi Arabia win their game. There's a chance they go through. So it's set up an interesting setup for that group. And France beat Denmark, which again I did say I thought they didn't have a bet any action in that. Poland or France didn't have any bets in either. France, when you got a player like Mbappe, I think you've always got a chance. And I don't know whether he scored both goals. I think he certainly scored the first, but they look like they're going to be in there quite a good position. Argentina, Messi scored, greatest player of all time. They were my tip pre-tournament. I think they'll go through now comfortably. I do think they'll do enough against Poland, and I think they'll be there at the death. Ian has asked me at what position do you close out. I use betting exchange, Ian. I don't know, for those unfamiliar, basically it's a live moving market. When the goal goes in, that market suspends. It then opens out. So they scored on the 23rd minute. I literally give it a couple of minutes for that market to settle down. When it first opens, the money starts coming back in the market and it's up and down. And then when that market's settled down to a stable position, that's when I exit. So I don't mess around with it. I'm not trying to take any risks or anything. I just like to sit there, get my money out, and I can sit there. Then I, sit. Basically, I had whatever it was, 67 minutes plus extra time with no risk. So that's how I do it. But so that was yesterday. Really, a bit of a dullish day. France won. Argentina was obviously the game where everybody thought, and I did say back Argentina in the morning. I did think that Argentina far too good for Mexico. And what's interesting in that is when it got to 0-0, I actually traded some second half goals because Argentina did have to win. So obviously we're at the stage of the tournament now where we've got it today. Germany will have to win today. I don't see a draw being good enough for Germany. Germany will have to win. So they've got to go for it. So that will lead to goals. When you get teams that have to win, two things are going to happen. They're going to surge forward and score themselves, or they're going to leave gaps at the back, as Germany may do today, which I'll talk about in a minute, and the other team scores. So I was always confident that we would see some goals in that game.
Very good. So just a couple of comments quickly. So Barry said he's seen a stat that there's more late goals after 80 minutes than previous tournaments. Yeah, wasn't aware of that myself, but
there have been. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of, and it's an absolute fact of, huge amounts of injury time, more than we're used to seeing in football. Some games 8, 9, 10 minutes, which, to be fair, is what they should be playing in the Premier League. I go to football and I sit there and watch it, and you think, how they only added 3 minutes on there. So obviously, if you've got more time at the end of the game, you're going to get more goals scored. The longer a game goes on, the more goals that are going to be scored in it. What I would say, though, is we've only had 24 games, so it's a tiny sample size, and that's where you've got to be careful, particularly betting, that you're basing stuff on really small samples. And will that
Dave's done a little analysis here. Yeah, 24 played, 21 with over 5 minutes of added time.
Yeah, and that so, and it has definitely been a pattern. It's obviously a directive at the start of the tournament. We are going to tot all this time up, and we're going to play it at the end of the game. And as I say, if you play a football match for 90 minutes or a football match for 100 minutes, over time, matches around will have more goals.
It seems to create this issue, though, doesn't it? If they have 10 minutes of injury time, then you need added on time at the end of that time as well, don't you? and
that's exactly right.
It just gets complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm not watching, but some of them have had 14, 15 minutes, I think, which, you know, is absolute madness. But I do think fans have been shortchanged for years on stuff like that, on time of actual what the football they watch. Ian has asked, at what stage would you have got out?
Kalina said, referee, he said in the average game the ball was only in play for 57 minutes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it is something they're looking at. They are looking at it and you know, touting sort of an NFL type model where we have a independent clock keeper up in the stand who starts and stops the clock, you know, when the referee blows his whistle.
Like in basketball as well.
But I don't think fans want to see football matches going on 2-3 hours. You've got to get the balance right in that of playing a fair amount of ball time. And players cheat a lot more, roll around. You know, you'll see it now as these games develop, particularly in knockout. You 1-0 up, you'll see the keeper lying on the ball for 30 seconds and all this. So you've got to get that balance between.
They do that thing where they catch it and then fall on it, don't they?
On the floor, exactly, and just hold it and have a look round and do all that, don't they? It's all just nonsense.
So today's
Ian asked me what time would I have got out on the betting side. I wouldn't have got out, Ian. I let those bets ride. So my risk is 1 point, and I'm happy to lose that point. You know, 90% of games have a goal. So there's usually, if you pick your games, I mean, I'm not saying we don't have losers, because of course you do, but you just got to be selective and pick your games based on some logic, which we're trying to do today with these sheets to do it. So no, I swallow the ones that lose. Right, shall we get on to today?
Yep, today's games. So Japan, Costa Rica at 10.
Beam me up on the old sheet.
Yep, my bad.
I've added a bit of colour now. We've added a bit of colour. Let's make it a bit bigger for you. Right, I've added a bit of conditional formatting, Chris. But I've got to say, when we're watching it, when we're looking at it, I've got to make the disclaimer. You've only got to look at the line that I'm on according to the band. What happens below it doesn't matter. So at the minute I'm on Japan, Costa Rica, I'm not worried of these because it's all linked to one cell. So as I change the bands, the highlights for the next game will change. But that's perhaps something you can talk me through at some stage. We've been talking about goals per game. We are now at the lowest first half goals per game that we have seen in World Cup since 2022. Currently, we're halfway through the group games. We are on 0.79 first half goals per game. We are getting down to 2006 had 1.17 when this was the lowest. 2010 was the lowest goals in a World Cup in modern time, and we've now gone lower than that. They had 0.88 in South Africa when the Vuvuzelas were putting them off. I don't know what's putting them off in Qatar, but 0.79, and we're averaging only 2.38 goals per game now. And as I said, you know, we've had some high scorers in there. The rest of the football, I think, must have been absolutely dire for a lot of these games. That, I mean, I've got people who are watching every game. You must be sitting there falling asleep. Get yourselves a good book, because I'm not sure this is going to change much over the next week. But that's a desperate stat. And actually, I remembered it yesterday when I was updating this. I had an FTS member 4 years ago tell me that his bet in the World Cup is to lay 1.5 first half goals. And I'd forgotten all about it. I dropped him a text, and he has done every game blind and is about 10 points up doing that.
I think I saw someone on Twitter, it might have been the same person saying
so they're laying 2 goals in the first half. And obviously, I mean, we had 5 or 6 0-0s on the bounce. So he's in clover at the minute. But let's get to today's games. 10 o'clock, Japan, Costa Rica. Costa Rica stuffed 7-0 the other day. Japan 108 above. So I've popped the 101 to 150 bracket in. So I'm looking at this line. And basically what I've asked this to do now is tell me, are any of my prices in this game better than the prices that relate to what we've seen? And if they are, can you just stick a little green square on them? Chris, you know, when I'm working, I ask you to do a lot of highlighting. Because when I've got a lot of games, I just like the visual colour of that's where I've got to go. So it just saves me scrolling along. Go, right, they're telling me today, Japan, Costa Rica, there's value in the first half goal market. We've had 38 games in that bracket. 26 have had a first half goal, 12 hadn't. Equates to odds of 1.46. We can get 1.55 when I filled this in this morning. I think Japan are going to win. Obviously, a fantastic result the other day against the Germans. Costa Rica are garbage, lost 7-0. And I think they're going to win comfortably. I would be in the camp of backing Japan to win the game and trading like I did on Argentina last night. And I will play the first half goals from 10-20 onwards. I'll leave it 10-15 minutes and I will play the first half goal market in that game, Japan, Costa Rica. We've got in the same bracket, because it's 101 to 150, the Spain-Germany game falls in the same bracket. And when we've had that, we see Spain are 149 points ahead of Germany in the Elos now. Germany obviously losing a chunk of points, losing to Japan the other day. Don't know why that doesn't. We've had 38 games, 19 times the top-rated team has won, 10 draws, 9 times they've lost, odds of 2. I'm not getting involved in the game, but I think it's going to be an absolute cracker just for the fact that Germany have lost their first game and they have to go for it. You've actually got a team now who are good, Germany, who've got to go for it, playing the best possession team in the tournament. Who, if Germany, exactly what I talked about, if Germany pour forward, I'm certain that Spain will be exploiting the marks behind. So whilst we haven't got value in the over 2.5 market here, I do think we'll see some goals in this game this afternoon, just for the fact that it's just the typical sort of knockout sort of situation. Now, Germany cannot lose this game. If Germany lose this game, they will be gone. Particularly if Japan have beaten Costa Rica. Japan would have 2 wins, Spain would have 2 wins. That is Germany out the tournament. So, you've got to keep an eye on this. If Japan win this game, pressure really is on Germany to not lose to Spain. So I'm really looking forward. I mean, it's almost the game that would make me break my curfew of watching.
Yeah, 7 o'clock tonight, that one, Spain-Germany.
Good game. So Belgium are 2-4-1 ahead. So let's change our numbers up here to 201 to 250. And everything changes. So again, I'm just looking at the Belgium line on my conditional formatting. And Belgium 194. I think this is a great price for Belgium today. I know they didn't play great the other night. Morocco are stubborn to beat, don't really score goals. You look at Morocco's record for goals, it isn't great. They've not lost many games, but most of it's played on the African continent. But we've had 44 games in this bracket, 31 wins for the home team, for the top-rated team, 8 draws, 5 losses, odds of 1.42. I said Belgium the other day were big price. I think they're even better today. I think, this is one. I think Belgium, I said before the tournament started, I think Belgium will win their group. I'm not saying they won't make it hard work, but when you've got players like Kevin De Bruyne up against teams like Morocco, I've got to be on Belgium today. And again, a game I would back Belgium and then I would lay off once they took the lead. So I've not got any risk.
Nice.
And then the final game is Croatia-Canada, which is just tipped over into the 151 to 200. And Canada were getting a lot of plaudits for their performance against Belgium. 151 to 200. So Croatia, Canada, showing Croatia as having value there in the win market. So let's just have a look at that. Oh, yeah.
You have to click on the arrow, yeah.
So 1.95, so 39 games where they're top rated, 20 wins, 10 9 losses, so pretty much half and half there. Odds of 2.34 available for Croatia. If I'd had enough data, if this was something I was doing continually, this was league football, I would almost certainly probably bet that. But given the fact that we have got small samples, I'm doubtful of Croatia. I was at the start of the tournament. I thought they'd win their first game, said that they would, they didn't. I'm doubtful with their aging team. Luka Modric is a fantastic player, but another one getting on 36, 37. And given what people have said about Canada, high energy, really play as a team. Again, they've got to try and win. They've got to try and win this game, both of them. So the market that does interest me are these two. I think we'll see goals. I'm not going to say who's going to score them because I think that Croatia are clearly the better side, but Canada obviously are outperforming. I do like the first half goal and the 1.5 goals here. So I will probably play both those markets. I would play the first half goal in the first 45 minutes, 25 minutes. If I lost that, I would move into over 1.5 goals in the second half. So for me, Japan first half goals, I do think they win. Belgium, I think, are going to win. Croatia, Canada, first half goals and over 1.5, and Spain, Germany, I just think is going to be a cracker where if I was doing anything, I'd trade the goals because I think Germany have to score goals tonight. Simple as that. And Spain are good.
Nice. Yeah, got a question coming from Mark. So Mark's saying, dabbling in the first half goal market seems to have been expensive so far. Any alternatives worth suggesting? What do you make of that, Ian?
Sit on your hands. Yeah, one of the best ways to save money punting, Mark, is to not bet. It is. I mean, these are unusual times. I say, it only happens every 4 years. They mix the groups up. You don't know a lot about all the teams, and whilst people try and pretend they're experts, so as you see here, I'm very cautious about any bets or advice that I pick up, and everything with me would be, as soon as something happens that favours me, get my money out and get it back so I don't have the risk. The first half goals per game number, we've got 0.79. I do believe by the time we get to 48 group games, this will rise up. I do. Teams are going to get more desperate. Teams like Germany now have to score. Croatia, Canada, really one of them needs to win. So I think Scott said at the start of these, as we go through the group stages, you do tend to see more goals in the round of games. I think this number will go up, so you'll see more first half goals. I just wouldn't, and we haven't, be diving in for the first week of the tournament. I think you've just got to wait and let the numbers settle down and see what happens. Sitting on your hands. One of the great things I say to my guys is sit on your hands. We can bet 24 hours a day if we want to. As Chris says at the start, but we're not encouraging people to bet. This is showing how to use data. If you're a football punter, sit on your hands is one of the best, and patience is one of the best tips I can give you.
What are we going to do if Lord Erskine comes in this afternoon?
It's one before. Every time this horse runs, my phone lights up. I get 2 or 3 messages, and I think it 1-2 runs out, but it didn't. It didn't win then the following time. But yeah, it will romp in today. It'll absolutely hose up.
Yeah,
we'll be celebrating tomorrow.
Very good.
And Callum said, I put in our group that 0-0, France got to 0-0 at half time. And I put in our group of all the score lines, all the teams playing, if it had been 0-0 for France, only 37.5% of those games had a goal. People look at that 2 ways. I won't bet it because there's not many goals. And I said, I actually take the contrarian view. That cannot continue. The average second half goals is about 75%. So my view is 37.5 is so low, it's worth having a bet because you're just going to keep getting value in the price till they. And sure enough, you saw 3 goals in the second half. And that's dead right. I think people look at football stats and they want to see 100% here and 100% there, and then they think I'll go with that. Well, you got to remember, the whole world's looking at this stuff. They all know. I'm my own betting. I'm quite contrarian. I look at games and streaks where teams are underperforming and then try and jump on it. There we go. Right.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Okay. So we're going to jump into the Excel stuff now. So nice job, Ian, by the way. Always like analysis. So what are we going to look? What we're going to look at today? Well, I think the past few days we've been looking at our data analysis formulae. So these, for me, are the absolute bread and butter if you're doing football analysis. And you can see Ian's dashboard that he's knocked up. This is pretty much what Ian's using. So we've got count ifs in there, sum ifs in there. So for me, you can't do too much practice of these formulae. Excel is a skill. Formula building is a skill. The more you practice it, the better you get. With that said, I don't want us to do these formulae every day. So we're going to mix up the topics today and do something a little bit more conceptual rather than technical. So we shouldn't do too much formula building, although we will do some. But it's a topic that if you're involved with football trading and if you're working with Excel in any capacity, and it's something we have to deal with in our projects all the time, which is data management. And the specific situation we're looking at here, and remember this file is available for download, of course. The link is in the description below this video. The specific situation we're working with now is we want to build our data set and incorporate the results that are coming in at the moment. And this is a situation, if you're working with football data, you'll encounter all the time. You know, you want to bring in the season's results, you want to bring in last season's results. So it raises a few really important questions about how to manage data in Excel. And for me, having dealt with this issue for 10, 12 years in my work, you know, day in, day out, there isn't a perfect answer to this question. But there's definitely some things to be aware of. And then for me, there's 2 or 3 different approaches that will help you manage data in what we call a dynamic way. And a dynamic way means your spreadsheet is going to work if you have 3 rows, 300 rows, 3,000 rows. So we're looking to get to that dynamic solution. I'm going to show you a practical way to deal with this, which isn't the most elegant, but does work. And for most Excel users, it's what I'd recommend. And then I'm also going to show you the actual approach that I use, which involves defining dynamic ranges in the background. That is very elegant and very smooth, but is more technical in terms of how you put it together. So that's what we're going to do. And then let me know in the chat, guys, what's your approach? What's your approach to managing data in Excel? The specific kind of problem we're going to have to deal with is these column references. So we're going up to 325 now. Let's go find row 325 here. I can see row 325, and this is the last game from the 2018 tournament. You know, seems to make sense because we were analyzing historical data. But suppose, now actually, you know, it could be any scenario. We want to include the current matches. Maybe we want to include the group matches once the group matches are approaching completion. You know, whatever it might be, you need some kind of flexible approach to allow you to do this. So let's go through a few approaches. Now, one possible approach is just say, well, Chris, I'm just going to reference the whole column here, and this is going to work absolutely fine. So I've said R6 to R325. So if I just delete the row numbers here, well, I can just go to R to R like this. This is going to work okay most of the time, but there are a few drawbacks here, and I don't actually recommend it. The reason I don't recommend it is how many cells is Excel currently analyzing? How many cells is Excel having to look at in order to calculate this formula? Do you know that, Ian? How many rows are there in Excel?
I think I actually use this, Chris, so I'm going to get a bollock because that's exactly what I do. Is what you've done there. All my everything you see on my sheet that is that, and I think it's something like 1,100,000 or something, isn't it?
Absolutely. So if we go down to the bottom here, so shift and control and down arrow, we can get to the bottom of Excel. We can see 1,448,576 rows there. So you'll find if you're doing that, and you can see on Ian's sheet, you know, it's working fine. In the short term, you know, you might be okay, but you're going to encounter some problems. You're going to encounter, for example, efficiency problems. If we calculated all of these formulae, you know, and we pointed them all to the whole row, then Excel's looking at, you know, billions of cells at some point. That's going to slow things down. The other thing is, because you're not controlling this range tightly, you might have some issues in terms of what if somebody goes in, you know, and this wouldn't be very disciplined to do this, but who knows? Somebody's going to go in and just pop some data below the table, or some data gets there accidentally. Like, who knows what might happen? But the point is, you've got a massive range that you're not using for data that would still affect the formula potentially. So this is a practical solution, but I think fairly soon you're gonna encounter problems there. So there's the pros and cons of that idea.
Chris, can I just pause you? Go for it. You've just got 2 or 3 comments there. One for column D and one from Arnie.
Okay, let's go in. So Arnie's saying, Arnie says, I can't seem to find the download files. Wonder if anybody else has experienced the same issue. If you follow the link in the video description, it should to the website, and then if you don't have an account with us, you have to quickly create an account. You have to put your email in. For the people who are experiencing that problem, let me know. It's something we'll try and fix. We'll try and fix before tomorrow if that's problematic. Okay, and then Anish, a question coming in from Anish. Can we just check column D of the dash? I think it only takes into account team A, not team A and team B. I think we did deal with this, Anish. So if you go back a few streams, we've got a column in the spreadsheet that gets the result for the stronger team. The result for the stronger team. Yeah. So you can go back through this. Let me just point out the column to you. Yeah, this column here, Anish. So I think a couple of shows ago, so show 5 or show 6, you can see we've got a longer formula here. I was going to say a good formula, but a long formula is not a good formula, of course. Established that the other day, but a nice combination of formulae doing the job there for us. So I think we are okay there. Anish, good. So if we're saying highlighting whole columns is highlighting whole columns rather is not preferable. The next practical solution, not super elegant but practical, is to format as a table. Format your data as a table. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So I'm going to select all the data, Control Shift right, Control Shift down, and then we go to Home and Format as Table here. And then we've got some nice formatting schemes here. Let's just go for this one. And then we'll see Excel says create table, and it's just put the reference for the range there. We can then hit OK, and we can see, we get some nice formatting. Excel's going to put the filters on as well. And then if we go down to the bottom of the data, let's go down to the bottom of this column quickly. What we should find, let me see if we go down. Yeah, what you'll find here is we have a little drag handle. Now, that drag handle you can pull up and down, and that's going to change the range that the table refers to. And an additional benefit of tables, although I've personally found this inconsistent, but that's probably because I just haven't used tables enough. If you add data at the bottom, in most situations, the table will automatically expand. The table will automatically expand. So that means your formulae, as long as you're using the table references, we'll look at those in a second, your formulae should still work. However, the downside for me for working with tables is just the referencing is a little bit unwieldy and it's a bit ugly. Personally, I don't like working with it. Again, it's something I'll probably get used to over time, but I think there's a better approach that we'll talk about in a second. So for example, if we want to convert this to, we want to go ahead and just look at column R. So I'm going to go to the inputs, to the input sheet again. I'm going to go to column R. And now you'll see the behavior is slightly different. So when I hover over one of these and go Control Shift and down, okay, I'm going to go to the bottom of the table here. Somewhere there's a way to just highlight the column in the table, but I don't seem to have that at the moment. So I'm just going to hold down the Shift key, go to the bottom of our formatted range here. And what we'll find, is the table notation goes into the formula there. So it's something like this. Now, you might say, Chris, I'm absolutely fine, we're working with that notation. And there's some benefits to it. It gives the column a name. The column name is the column header there. And as I said, I'll get used to that over time. But I just find even putting those references in and getting the right language in here, I find that, a bit annoying. But it's there. And yeah, a possible advantage would be if you add additional data now. Let's just go ahead and just, what happens if we just put some data here? Yeah, I just pop some data in. You can see Excel's put a row under the table there. And that means because we're using the table notation, that data will be automatically incorporated into that formula, you see. Do you get that, Ian?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yep.
Not with sure I like it, but I get it. Yeah.
Pros and cons. But I think most traditionally trained Excel people who are who've done all the Excel courses and and are Microsoft certified and everything, that would be their recommended approach. That would be to use a table, get used to the notation, get used to the it's a little bit difficult to work with because you get all of those dynamic benefits. When we're adding data at the bottom, it's expanding. So a couple of practical options there for you. Both of those will work. Both of those have slight downsides, but I'm going to show you the way I do it, and I'm just going to go ahead and undo this so we can get rid of our table formatting. So I'm just undoing there, Control Z, and somehow it's kind of reformatted things a little bit. Let's just go and adjust.
What was that shortcut?
Row heights.
Control Z is undo.
Control Z. You don't know Control Z, man?
No, I always click the little arrow on the home tab.
Yeah, Control Z, Control Z. Absolutely. Yeah, that just allows us to undo. Control Y allows you to redo as well.
Right. Okay.
So that's obviously the opposite there.
Learn something every day, Christy boy.
Absolutely, you've got to be building up those shortcuts. So I'll show you my approach now. I won't be able to demonstrate the whole thing now because we've only got about 5 minutes, but I'm going to do a very quick demonstration of something called indirect, a formula called indirect. Now, as with the other approaches I've shown you, there's pros and cons. I want you to have a critical, what I call a critical perspective on your Excel practice. That means there isn't a single right way to do it. There's pros and cons to each approach. You've got your technique. You can make the right selection for you. So it might work for you, might not work for you. What I can tell you is this approach is tried and tested. And if you're using the FTS spreadsheets and there's anything I've built in there, it's likely there's indirect in there somewhere. But the slight health warning with indirect is it's what's called a volatile formula, and the offset formula is the same. And a volatile formula just means it's kind of always calculating in the background. So the precise technical reason for that, I don't really know. It doesn't really matter, but it can create a lot of load and it can create inefficiency. So you don't want millions of indirect formulae. Right, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration and you can apply these to the ranges that we reference in the formulae to get it working. So let's say we want to dynamically add up goals from a range of games. So just a silly question, really, but it will allow us to demonstrate what's going on here. So let's say start game and end game here. Now by start game, we've got these match IDs. Okay, so let's say start game ID, Alt HOW 15 here. Start game ID and then end game ID. And then what we want eventually is the number of goals here. Okay. Now how many games have we got? Okay, so we've got 1 to 3, 8, 4 here. So we could of course put some kind of data validation on here. So let's just suppose we want to add up goals from the first 10 games. So effectively what we want to do, I'm going to do it first using a normal formula. What we want to do is sum up for the first 10 games. Let's go over to total goals here and just sum up the first.
Can I just
yeah, go on in. Yep.
You've put 1 there, but your first game doesn't start till row 6.
Yep. Good question. Yeah, so I'm going to use the match ID numbers here. So you could use rows.
You're using that, right? Okay, right. I'm with you. Okay, right. You're not using row numbers. You're using that, right? Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's the idea. So what happens with indirect is what's written in the formula. We've got to write that out in a cell, which sounds crazy. The way indirect works, it is a bit crazy. But what's written out in the formula, the reference, if we can write that out in a cell, indirect can then read it and then get what we want. And this is a difficult idea to understand, but it's absolutely magical in terms of creating a dynamic range. Because if we can control these numbers in a cell, 6 to 15 here, and we've got our cells here, we can then change the numbers. That's going to change the range that's written in a cell, and indirect is then going to read off that range. So how would we go about putting this together? I'm just going to put an inverted comma here, so we can just read this as reference. So we want to be able to structure this in a cell somehow. So the way I'd do it is I'd say sheet name here. So it's going to be input. So whatever your sheet name is. And then let's say column here. So column is going to be BN. And then we should be able to put our references together. So we've got all of the information we need now to create what we call a text string. So we just want to kind of write out that reference in a cell. And we want to do it dynamically. So if we change these values, then they're going to change in that reference as well. And so how would we do that? Well, we're going to be joining cells together. So concatenating. So we're going to be using that and sign. So if I say input here, going to make this a little bit easier. I'm going to put the exclamation mark here as well. So let's say all text here, all text for reference, something like that. So it's going to be this cell and the column letter and the first row. Okay, so we've got as far as here. Then we need our semicolon. So I'm going to put that in speech marks there. Then we need another and, so I'm trying to be really precise here, just taking my time. So we need this column again, the column letter again, and then finally we need another and then we need our the end of our range. Okay. So formula is going to look something like that. Now that's not an easy formula to build, but hopefully you could see by doing it step by step, just very steady, systematic. That's what the guy who taught me spreadsheets used to say, steady, systematic. There's no rush, steady, systematic. I don't work any faster than this in real life. Ian knows. Yeah. I've got a very analog mind, and I just go through it step by step, no rush, keep the stress levels down. And that means in the long term, you're going to have longer work sessions anyway. You're going to be more productive. So that gives us this, and this looks completely useless on its own. But what we've managed to do, actually incredibly powerful, is we've managed to write out this reference. But we've got a slight problem with the rows here. So I'm just going to let's just move this down and make an adjustment. And Ian mentioned this at the beginning. If we say in my D1 to 10. If we say start row here, so the data starts on row 6. I'm just going to say row 5 actually. Row 5, and so great little formula here that's just going to kind of increment up our values. That's going to get us to the values we need. So 10 plus 5 is 15, 1 plus 5 is 6. And then we need to just adjust all these references across. So benefiting now from that visual help that we get with Excel references. So I'm just looking at the colors, pulling those across, and that allows our reference to update. So BN6 to BN15 on the input sheet. So that should be our first 10 games. Yeah. So BN6 to BN15. Okay. Yep. So we managed to write out the reference. So now it's all about the power of indirect. So if we say number of goals here, so we're going to say sum as usual, but then for the reference, we're going to put indirect in here. Now what you're saying to Excel is read what's in that cell. Read what's in that cell, and then in the background turn it into a reference, and then hopefully this is going to make the magic happen. So now we close the brackets. Then what have we got? We do get a result. And that doesn't usually work first time with indirect, guys. Usually there's a little syntax problem here or something. So don't be discouraged. It might take 2 or 3 tries. Usually takes me 2 or 3 tries. But now we've got glorious dynamic functionality. Yeah. So I'm just going to highlight these cells. So whatever match IDs we want to look at, let's look at matches 11 to 15, for example. And we're saying we've got 15 goals, matches 11 to 15. Need some freeze panes on here, don't I? So match 11 is in row 16. In row 16, so it'll be row 16 to 20, won't it? Yeah, we can see 15 goals there. Okay. Yeah, so very simple example of a dynamic range definition there. So definitely have a bit of a play with that and get yourself to a situation where you can believe it. How would this apply to our formulae? Well, this indirect idea here, and if you want a Sunday challenge, a Sunday Excel challenge, see if you can do this yourself. So what we'd want to do to get a really nice dynamic formula, we'd want to substitute in these references for our dynamic reference here. So what goes in the formula would look something like that, and that would give us the complete dynamic function. So we'll see if we can complete that one tomorrow.
And do just one quick question, Chris. Yeah. Would you, if we add rows on the bottom, do you have to change that number? You just have to change that number.
Well, no, because we'll use something like count A here. Okay. Now the one time I would forgive referencing a whole column is maybe once in the engine on your spreadsheet to establish how much data is there in the file.
Right. Okay.
So count A. So let's do this very quickly. We'll get going in a second. But for example, yeah, you could choose any column. You'd want to choose the column that has data for each row, of course. Yeah.
Cover that tomorrow. I mean, I think you had everybody there was not much chat. I think you had everyone absolutely riveted there on how this was going to go.
Yeah. But tomorrow, we'll extend it a bit more. Yeah, great question from Ian as well. So because the idea is that you just set this up and then you never think about it again. And that's how it works. That's how it works in all of Ian's files. But yeah, this could be a bit frustrating because it looks like a bit of a pointless demonstration. But tomorrow, we'll actually recreate these formulae using that dynamic solution, and then that allows us to have a proper data management solution.
Love it. Love that. Brilliant.
Good stuff. And Ian says great solution. I mean, it's worked for us over the years. You know, Ian knows I'm obsessive about spreadsheet efficiency and keeping the files smooth, and it's worked very nicely for us over the years. And Lee says, that shouldn't affect the storage size at all. The possible negative effect is on the spreadsheet efficiency. So the speed the formulae calculate out at, and in Ian's sheets, we often have VBA processes running. So we've got to control the calculation very carefully. I'm sure we'll get onto that later.
The headmaster's in. Doff your cap. The headmaster's in.
Will it break? I'm outside the head teacher's office here. Will it break if you had a column? Great question, Alistair. Great question. Well, I'd say try to fix the data structure. This is what we've been doing all summer, Alistair. Try to fix the data structure before you do anything. So I'd say try to avoid the situation where you had to add a column. However, if it was inevitable, totally understand these things happen. All you'd have to do is change that column reference. That would be reflected in the reference, and that would all work through.
All right, so if you inserted a column and moved things along, you would just go in and change that. I might have some new columns in the summer, Alistair.
Yeah, there we go. So great question, Greg. Oh, nice solution from Ben as well. Ben's absolutely right. So here we could use match. We could use a match formula. Look at the column headers. That would give us a column number. We could then convert that to the
nice, Ben. Well done, Ben.
Reference. Very nice. Good stuff. Yeah. So
there are not problems. There are only solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is always a way in Excel, guys. I guarantee there's always a way. Takes a long time to find it sometimes, but there's always a way. Very good. Okay. I think we've got a show there, Ian.
Yeah. Good. Enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that one. Excellent.
Good stuff, guys. Okay. Any final questions in the chat, guys? Dave says, great session. Thanks very much. Anything else from you, Ian? Are you going to have a cheeky watch today, maybe? Spain, Germany?
No, I'm not watching. No, I'm actually this evening. I am meeting my boy. It's my boy's birthday tomorrow, and he's off for the day, and I'm picking him up. That's so yes. So I'm not. No, I do think the Spain Germany will be a cracker, but no, I won't be watching.
Yeah. Okie dokie, great stuff, guys. Well, as always, thanks so much for watching, guys. I think we're really enjoying these sessions too. And yeah, we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, Monday. So take care,
See you
guys.
later, guys. Thank you. Cheers.